try to see if I can't get this accomplished, and the 20 minutes that I've got to read is the 20 minutes I've got before I catch my bus. So, if only I can remember where I left off. On number 21. People are often hindered by environmental phenomenon from perceiving the mind, and by individual events from perceiving underlying principles. So they often try to escape from environmental phenomenon in order to still their minds. Oh, I read this yesterday. Thus, the mind of the Bodhisattva is like the void, this is number 23, and everything is relinquished by it. When thoughts of the past cannot be taken hold of, that is relinquishment of the past. When thoughts of the present cannot be taken hold of, that is relinquishment of the present. When thoughts of the future cannot be taken hold of, that is relinquishment of the future. This is called utter relinquishment of the triple time. Since the Tathagata entrusted Kasyapa with the Dharma until now, mind has been transmitted with mind, and these minds have been identical. A transmission of void cannot be made through words. A transmission in concrete terms cannot be the Dharma. Thus mind is transmitted with mind, and these minds do not differ. Transmitting and receiving transmission are both a most difficult kind of mysterious understanding, so that few indeed have been able to receive it. In fact, however, mind is not mind, and transmission is not really transmission. 24. A Buddha has 3 bodies. By the Dharmakaya is meant the body of the omnipresent voidness of the real self-existent nature of everything. By the Sambhogakaya is meant the Dharma of the underlying universal purity of things, and the Nirmanyakaya is meant the Dharma of the 6 practices leading to nirvana and all other such devices. The Dharma of the Dharmakaya cannot be sought through speech or hearing or written word. There is nothing which can be said or made evident. There is just omnipresent voidness in the real self-existent nature of everything, and no more. Therefore, saying that there is no Dharma to be explained in words is called preaching the Dharma. The Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya both respond with appearances suited to particular circumstances. Spoken dharmas which respond to events through the senses, and in all sorts of guises are none of them the real Dharma. So it is said that the Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, is not the real Buddha or preacher of the Dharma. The term unity refers to a homogeneous spiritual brilliance which separates into 6 harmoniously blended elements. The harmonious spiritual brilliance is the one mind, while the 6 harmoniously blended elements are the 6 sense organs. These 6 sense organs become severally united with objects that defile them. The eyes with form, the ears with sound, the nose with smell, and the tongue with taste, the body with touch, and the thinking mind with entities. Between these organs and their objects arise the 6 sensory perceptions, making 18 sense realms in them all. If you understand that these 18 realms have no objective existence, you will bind the 6 harmoniously blended elements into a single spiritual brilliance which is the one mind. All students of the way know this, but cannot avoid forming concepts of a single spiritual brilliance, and the six harmoniously blended elements. Can't avoid making concepts of those things. Accordingly, they are chained to entities and fail to achieve a tacit understanding of the original mind. 26. When the Tathagata manifested himself in this world, he wished to preach the single vehicle of truth. But people would not have believed him, and, by scoffing at him, would have become immersed in a sea of sorrow, samsara. On the other hand, if he had said nothing at all, that would have been selfishness, and he would not have been able to diffuse knowledge, of the mysterious way for the benefit of sentient beings. So, he adopted the expedient of preaching that there are three vehicles. As, however, these vehicles are relatively greater or lesser, unavoidably there are shallow teachings and profound teachings, none of them being the original Dharma. So, it is said that there is only one vehicle way. If there were any more, they could not be real. Besides, there is absolutely no way of describing the Dharma of one mind. Therefore, the Tathagata called Kasyapa to come and sit with him on the seat of proclaiming the law, separately, entrusting to him the wordless Dharma of the one mind. This branchless Dharma was to be separately practiced. This branchless Dharma was to be separately practiced, and those who should be tacitly enlightened would arrive at the state of Buddhahood. 27. Questioner: what is the way, and how must it be followed? Answer: What sort of thing do you suppose the way to be that you would wish to follow it? Well, what instructions have masters everywhere given for dhyana practice and the study of the Dharma? Words used to attract the dull of wit are not to be relied on. The questioner says, if those things were meant for the dull-witted, I have yet to hear what Dharma has been taught to those of really high capacity. Answer: if they are really men of high capacity, where could they find people to follow? If they seek from within themselves, they will find nothing tangible. Much less can they find a Dharma worthy of their attention elsewhere. Do not look to what is called the Dharma by preachers, for that sort of Dharma, what sort of Dharma could that be? Questioner: if that is so, should we not seek for anything at all? Answer: by conceding this, you would save yourself a lot of mental effort. Question: but in this way, everything would be eliminated. There cannot just be nothing? Answer: who called it nothing? Who was this fellow? But you wanted to seek for something. Question: well, since there's no real need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? Like, since there's no need to seek, why do you also say that not everything is eliminated? And they answered, not to seek is to rest tranquil. Who told you to eliminate everything? Look at the void in front of your eyes. How can you produce it or eliminate it? Question: if I could reach this Dharma, would it be like the void? Answer: morning and night I have explained to you that the void is both one and manifold. I said this as a temporary expedient, but you are building up concepts from it. Do you mean that we should not form concepts as human beings normally do? Answer: I have not prevented you, But concepts are related to the senses, and when feeling takes place, wisdom is shut out. Question. Then, should we avoid any feeling in relation to the Dharma? Answer. Where no feeling arises, who can say that you are right? Ooh, I like that. Question. Why do you speak as though I was mistaken in all these questions that I've asked your reverence? Answer. You are a man who doesn't understand what is said to him. What is all this about being mistaken? 28. Question. Okay. Up until now, you've refuted everything which has been said. You've done nothing to point out the true Dharma to us. Answer. In the true Dharma there is no confusion, but you produce confusion by such questions. What sort of true Dharma can you go seeking for? Answer. Question. Since the confusion arises from my questions, what will your reverence answers be? Answer. Observe things as they are and don't pay attention to other people. There are some people just like mad dogs, barking at everything that moves, even barking when the wind stirs among the leaves and grasses. 29. Regarding this Zen doctrine of ours, since it was first transmitted, it has never been taught that men should seek for learning or form concepts. Studying the way is just a figure of speech. It is a method of arousing people's interests in the early stage of their development. In fact, the way is not something which can be studied. Study leads to the retention of concepts, and so the way is utterly misunderstood. Moreover, the way is not something specially existing. It is called the Mahayana mind which is not to be found inside, outside, or in the middle. Truly, it is not located anywhere. The first step is to refrain from knowledge-based concepts. This implies that if you were to follow the imperial method to the utmost limit, on reaching that limit, you would still be unable to locate mind. The way is spiritual truth, and was originally without a name or title. It was only because people ignorantly sought for it empirically that the Buddhas appeared and taught them to eradicate this method of approach. Fearing that nobody would understand, they selected the name Way. You must not follow this name to lead you into forming a mental concept of a road. So it is said, when the fish is caught, we pay no more attention to the trap. When the body and mind achieve spontaneity, the way is reached and the mind is understood. A Saramana, who is so called because he had penetrated to the original source of all things, the fruit of attaining the Samarana state is gained by putting an end to all anxiety and does not come from book learning. Number 30. If you now set about using your minds to seek mind, listening to the teachings of others, and hoping to reach the goal through mere learning, when will you ever succeed? Some of the ancients had sharp minds. They no sooner heard the doctrine proclaimed than they hastened to discard all learning. So they were called sages who, abandoning learning, have come to rest in spontaneity. These days, people only seek to stuff themselves with knowledge and deductions, seeking everywhere for book knowledge and calling this Dharma practice. They do not know that so much knowledge and deduction have just customary effects of piling up obstacles. Just the contrary effects of piling up obstacles. Merely acquiring a lot of knowledge makes you like a child who gives himself indigestion by gobbling up too much curds. Those who study the way according to the three vehicles are all like this. All you can call them is people who suffer from indigestion. When so-called knowledge and deductions are not digested, they become poisons. For they, for they belong only to the plane of samsara. In the Absolute, there is nothing at all of this kind. So it is said. In the armory of my sovereign, there is no sword of thusness. All concepts you have formed in the past must be discarded and replaced by void. Where dualism ceases, there is the void of the womb of the Tathagatas. The term wound of the Tathagatas implies that not the smallest hair's breadth of anything can exist there. That is why the Dharmaraja, the Buddha, who broke down the notion of objective existence, manifested himself in this world. And that is why he said, "When I was with the Dhammapada Buddha, there was not a single particle of anything for me to attain." This saying is intended just to avoid your sense-based knowledge and deductions. Only he who restrains every vestige of empiricism and ceases to rely on anything can become a perfectly tranquil man. The canonical teachings of the three vehicles are just remedies for temporary needs. They were taught to meet such needs, and so are of temporary value and differ one from another. If this could only be understood, there would be no more doubts about it. Above all, it is essential not to select some particular teaching suited to a particular occasion, and, being impressed by its forming part of the written canon, regard it as an immutable concept. How so? Because in truth, there is no unalterable Dharma which the Tathagata could have preached. People of our sect would never argue that there could be such a thing. We just know how to put all mental activity to rest and thus achieve tranquility. We certainly do not begin by thinking things out and ending up in perplexity. Okay. Question. Last one. For today. For this time. 31. From all you've just said, mind is the Buddha, but it is not clear as to what sort of mind is meant by this mind which is the Buddha. Answer. How many minds do you've got? Question. But this is Buddha, the ordinary mind, but is the Buddha the ordinary mind, or the enlightened mind? Answer. Where on earth do you keep your ordinary mind and your enlightened mind? Question. In the teaching of the three vehicles, it is stated there are both. Why does your reverence deny it? Answer. In the teaching of the three vehicles, it is clearly explained that the ordinary and the enlightened minds are illusions. You don't understand. All this clinging to the idea of things existing is to mistake vacuity for truth. How can such conceptions not be illusionary? Being illusionary, they hide mind from you. If you would only rid yourselves of the concept of ordinary and enlightened, you would find that there is no other Buddha than the Buddha in your own mind. When the Bodhidharma came from the West, he just pointed out that the substance of which all men are composed is the Buddha. You people go on misunderstanding. You hold to concepts such as ordinary and enlightened, directing your thoughts outward where they gallop about like horses. All this amounts to beclouding your own minds. So I tell you, the mind is Buddha. As soon as the thought or sensation arises, you fall into dualism. Beginningless time and the present moment are the same. There is no this and no that. To understand this truth is called complete and unexcelled enlightenment. Question. Upon what doctrine, Dharma principles, does your reverence base these words? Why I seek a doctrine. As soon as you have a doctrine, you fall into dualistic thought. Well, just now you said that the beginningless past and the present are the same. What do you mean by this? It is just because of your seeking that you make a difference between them. If you were to stop seeking, how could there be any difference between them? If they're not different, why did you employ separate terms for them? If you had not mentioned ordinary and enlightened, who would have bothered to say such things? Just as those categories have no real existence, so the mind is not really mind. And as both mind and those categories are really illusions, wherever can you hope to find anything? To be continued. Bye. This is a good chapter. It was a good chapter.